Hey, yo, check it.
Welcome back, hero.
My word is my sword, Hokage and Batosai, pulling the blades out of the forge, yo. Prior to my knowledge of the Force, was thinking Jedi, but through obtaining holocrons from both sides, I'm under gray skies. Everything that glitter ain't kyber crystal, my mind to lift you. In this time we shine together, disarm your pistol, yo. Welcome to the SwordCast.
Recording. I see it. It says it right there in the corner. Boom.
Did you push it?
I did, bro. It's there. It says recording. So we only have to do this once.
Okay.
Boom.
Hey! Jeez. We're
Children,
and there's no school because of COVID-19, so there's complete anarchy. Nova! There's no country for old men.
Roll credits.
Hey, man. But yeah, bro. Episode 40. Wow.
Oh shit.
Episode Harrison Barnes. Episode Harrison Barnes.
Isn't there like a Glenn Rice or Glenn Robinson that was number 40?
I know Glenn Rice was 41. I know
41. What the fuck is that?
I know. I have a funny story.
Jared Davis from the Detroit Lions. He's trash though.
I feel like there's some like big hitting safeties or something that were
right.
That would wear number 40. Come on, man. I know I got another one in me somewhere.
Is there not a Piston that was number 40?
I'm surprised.
I know every single Piston ever.
Yeah, every Piston. You do.
Oh, wait a minute. What number was Bill Laimbeer? Was he number 40?
He was number 40. Yeah, there you go. There's a good one. All right, we both got one. And that does it for the sports section of the SwordCast.
Yeah, well, man.
Depending on your definition of sports, right? We're about to keep it real martial artsy on this one. Before we get into everything we about to talk about today, man, we just got done checking out the Bruce Lee 30 for 30, man. You know what I mean? When they aired the Michael Jordan one, and I remember they had showed the Bruce, one at this, I think Sundance maybe film festival, and I just remember seeing people talk about it, and that was the one I was really, really excited for. So we're gonna talk about that, man, because it's late, and we waited to kind of do the episode until after we checked it out. So, but yeah, before we get into that, man, I have this one lock, and it's just like hanging in a weird space. All right, there we go. And,
word up.
But yeah, man, what are you into currently right now before we get into the Bruce Lee talk?
Yeah, man. Well, I just on a whim, I downloaded the Power Rangers Battle for the Grid video game, and we talked offline about this a few times, and we both were sort of under the impression maybe this was like a mobile like
a mobile game,
right? Like Battle for Marvel Universe, where they be having random like Thanos is worth 15,000 points. Like, what the fuck, y'all? What is this even? What are we even doing here? But no, that shit is a whole ass fighting game with a relatively. I mean, it's not a AAA title. It was only like maybe $20, I think. But
you said it has a pretty sophisticated fight system.
It has a legitimate fight engine. Like it's a legitimate fighting game. It's got.
Check it out.
It's got it's like Marvel vs. Capcom light. It's not quite the speed or the intensity as Marvel vs. Capcom.
Diet Marvel vs. Capcom.
Yeah, it's Diet Marvel vs. Capcom. It's got some Tekken in it because it's like you don't do like quarter circle moves. It's just like square triangle type moves. But everybody has a launcher. You can do air combos. You can do special moves. You can do EX moves. You can do like your super moves, your hyper, whatever. And it's just it tells the whole story. Or I mean, it's like a really like Cliff Notes version of
Yeah,
the grid,
the shattered
the
grid
Shattered Grid
story,
story. But it's
which
pretty fire.
which by the way, man, I have like big upped these comics many times on the show, man. You guys need to check out the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers comics on Boom Studios. I want to say Kyle Higgins, but not sure. I think that's who the writer is. But the Shattered Grid story,
Boom.
blow
It's
your
super
mind.
dope. Also, this game is voiced by
Jason David Frank.
Jason David Frank. Wait, that's not his name.
Hey, yeah, it
What's his
is.
name? Yeah,
Talking about
Jason
Tommy.
David. Yeah, Jason David
Yeah.
Frank, and also the Austin St. John. That's the guy
Oh,
whose
the
name I
Red
always
Ranger.
can't remember. Yeah.
Yeah, the Red Ranger.
Um,
Oh, that's dope, man. Wow.
and I think a few of the other Rangers have their original voice actor as well, but it's legit.
Okay, I
That's what I'm into.
definitely have to check it out, man. I definitely have to check it out.
Yep.
That sounds amazing. So me myself, man, I know you just finished watching Avatar: The Last Airbender, which got me super excited for next week.
Yes,
Next week
sir.
we're gonna talk about Avatar, but I actually, even though I have seen the show like a million times, I decided to go back and watch it too. I'm on book 3 right now. I just finished the second Eclipse episode where Zuko, you know what I mean, finally confronts his dad. I love that scene
Mhm.
where he redirects the lightning elements. It's
Yeah,
super
that was
dope.
super fucking fire.
Yeah, I just finished that episode, so I'm almost done. And like I say, man, I watch Avatar once a year, bro. That's how good that show is to me. I always watch it. I love it.
That's like me for Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, bro. It's just a classic. Telling the truth during an eclipse. This should be interesting.
Right.
Bro, I love how I always thought it was amazing how they didn't show Ozai's face until book 3, bro. Like
Hmm.
they really kept his face hidden in the whole show until book
Hmm.
3. Amazing. Like there's no show right now could do that. We gotta show him the villain here. There he is. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? They wouldn't be able to hold it that long. They would not be able to do it. But it was great, man. Fantastic show. But let's get it going, man. Bruce Lee 30 for 30. We had waited so long to see this, and it was something me and you were both really excited about. Just before we talk about it, they had these little segments kind of airing during commercial breaks, right, where they were kind of putting this question on the screen, and they had a couple athletes who have been inspired by Bruce, and they kind of aired some. So one that I really liked was, what does Bruce Lee mean to you? So I'm asking you that same question. What does Bruce Lee mean to you, sir?
And I've said this on the podcast before when it comes to the Mount Rushmore, and it's really not even a Mount Rushmore. It's because I only have 3 people on it, and that's all I really need. Of just influential people of all time, like the most influential people in your life outside of people who, I guess I should say, the most influential icons or the most influential celebrities, because there are people who in your personal life, your parents, your teachers, or whoever, that are going to be more impactful, obviously. But just for the sake of what we're talking about here, that Mount Rushmore is Bob Marley, Muhammad Ali, and Bruce Lee.
Such a fantastic.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man. It's amazing.
And so, obviously, like, I'm not sure if I was introduced to Bruce Lee before or after I started the martial arts, because I started the martial arts when I was so young, like 5 years old, really. So I don't really know much of any. I'm sure that I was brought into that world, and that opened up anime. That opened up the anime world for me. That opened up the the Hong Kong cinema, the action, the wuxia genre, the kung fu movies, action movies, all of that stuff was opened up through my exposure to the martial arts. And even my karate instructor, man, even my sensei was he just in the way. I mean, we can talk about it more in a little bit. But one of my favorite details about the documentary was how they showed Bruce Lee's teaching style, and it was almost exactly like my karate instructor completely borrowed his entire teaching style from Bruce Lee, which didn't really dawn on me until I saw this as an adult. But yeah, I
Right.
mean, how much can a celebrity that you've never met mean to someone? Whatever the maximum amount is, that's what it is for Bruce Lee, for me.
Right. And yeah, man, I love that. And same here, bro. My list of like, idols that are, these iconic people. He's definitely on top of mine. And same, man. When I was a kid and I was, interested in martial arts, my uncle Alan, man, he rest in peace. He passed away when I was in 7th grade. But he kind of put me and my brother on, the martial arts, the whole kung fu films, and I just saw Bruce, man, and he just was a guy who instantly just caught my attention. I was small, right? And here's this small guy who is just an absolute machine. You know what I mean? And obviously, I'm watching all his movies and everything, but getting older and kind of going into not just doing martial arts, but reading some of his books and kind of like deciphering his philosophy and his outlook on life, and it just, that is something that really changed my life as well as him being just an amazing just machine of a martial artist, man. And just really the whole like be water thing, right? Like it's such just an amazing concept, because just when you are somebody who has trained martial arts, and I'm sure you can speak to this too, man, is there are these like textbook forms, and there are these katas and these ways that you are supposed to do things, but they're not always comfortable for you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And Bruce was all about kind of learning these things and then making them fit you, like be water, don't be formless, like shapeless, right? So when I was at the beginning of my Wing Chun journey, I was learning all these forms, and then one thing that when I really started to get good at it was when I started to not be so focused on like being in this set form all the time. You know what I mean? And that's something that I just kept in mind because of Bruce. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't, you learn these forms, man, but make it you. You know what I'm saying? Make it fit you. Don't just be the kind of I guess the textbook robot.
So, I mean, Bruce Lee, and he caught a lot of flack for that, right? Like, he caught a lot of flack for being anti-tradition when it came to not only the form and style of martial arts, but also the concept and the philosophy of martial arts in a way that was uniquely. And they did a okay job talking about it in the movie or in the documentary. But it was really radical what he was doing. I mean, he was taking martial arts.
He was pissing people off. The other Asian masters and people who had schools, they were very displeased with what he was doing.
He was taking a Chinese tradition, a Chinese martial art, a Chinese piece of their heritage, and offering it to not only, he was pissing them off in two different ways. One, by offering it to non-Chinese, and they talk about that in the documentary. But the other piece that they don't really talk about as much is that he was challenging these 1,000-year-old doctrines of what martial arts was supposed to look like. And he was like, man, forget all the flowery movements. I'm trying to figure out the most efficient way to destroy my opponent. And a lot of people also call Bruce Lee the quote-unquote godfather of MMA for that exact reason. So,
yeah, man. I mean, literally, he totally was. I mean, Jeet Kune Do, the art of the intercepting fist, right? I'm basically at a distance, and I'm faster than you, so I'm basically just gonna see what you're about to do, and I'm just gonna stop it before you can do it. Basically,
I'm gonna hit you first.
I'm just so fast, and I'm gonna hit you first.
See,
one thing
that fighting style was so perfect, though, that it was so perfect well, I'm trying to find the right way to describe it. It was perfect if you were Bruce Lee. It depended upon
Bro,
being like a
it depends on
superhuman
superhuman speed.
in order to pull it off.
Absolutely. Superhuman speed, reaction time, bro. There's some footage where he is where he is throwing punches and you literally can't see them. It's amazing. Like it blows my mind. And one thing I really love that he always said about Styles, man, right, is he used to say, he didn't really believe in Styles because styles are what make people separate, and he kind of applied that to race and everything else. And then he would talk about how styles became like law, you know what I mean, and that is what made people live these different lives, because that's what separated everybody. So he didn't really
Right.
believe in all these different styles because it was all kung fu to him. But yeah, bro, so just strictly talking about the 30 for 30, like how did you feel about it, man? I know we were both really excited for it. Did it do it for you, or what?
It did,
feel
man.
about
I did. I went into it. Like I said, I have studied Bruce Lee my entire life, so I went into it initially like, all right, let me see what these niggas about to get wrong. You know what I'm saying?
it? Right.
Let me see what they about to misunderstand. Let me see what they about to misrepresent.
Hey,
Off right,
he's a Chinaman. Wait, what do you mean he's a machine?
right.
He's a worker.
But what happened off top though that made me feel confident in this movie and the documentary and what direction it was going in is the first thing that you saw on film, or like the first piece of footage outside of a clip of Bruce Lee, was the director, like on some like, yo, here's who I am. I'm an Asian American. This is what Bruce Lee means to me, and this is my vision. So for it to come from an Asian American talking about the life of an iconic Asian American, maybe the most iconic Asian, Asian, Chinese, Cantonese, and American action icon of all time, was really important. And so they really, like we were kind of talking about off air, there's not a whole, I don't know if I said this on air or off air, but there's not a whole lot more that I'm going to learn about or see or experience about the martial arts piece of Bruce Lee. I've scoured the internet, I've read all the books, I've done all the research you can do on the martial arts piece, but it was really dope to see how this documentary highlighted his activism, his wokeness, quotes, so to speak, his nationality, his pride as an Asian American, his pride as a Chinese American, and someone who really went out of his way to make sure that Chinese folks were portrayed in media and in America in a more just a more respectful
manner.
light. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It just was, and I knew that about him, but it was nice to see it really be the focus of the documentary. I mean, it was, and it's really sort of timely for what we're doing right now, what we're examining right now as a nation, that America has always been racist, and not just to black folks, to everyone.
I was watching it and I was literally like, there could not have been a better time for this to come out. Like you see it's America has been built on racism and finding that person and that type of person that is not the white American,
White supremacy, bro.
And it's unbelievable. Like the root of America is white supremacy, bro, and it is prevalent in anything that you research and look up, and it was super duper prevalent in this documentary, man. So but yeah, bro, I mean, I loved it. Like you said, I really I really enjoyed the way that it was made, right? Like you said, there's not too much of the martial arts. There's probably nothing of the martial arts side of Bruce that we don't know, that I don't know. So to see them go that route, and really they painted him as a cultural hero, man, an icon, right? All this, every Chinese role in Hollywood was racist, and they were always making them look weak and obedient. And here comes Bruce, and he was just like, you know, he wanted his people to be seen in a more respectable light, and he was refusing to take those roles, like, you know what I mean, even though he was broke and he was looking for work, he wouldn't do it, and I love that. And another thing I thought was really dope, man, was when you watch something like this, right? Like we watched Dark Side of the Ring, and it's kind of a similar, you know, but when we watch, you watch documentary, and they always do the thing where they like cut to the person that's talking, right?
Yeah.
And they cut to the person that's talking, and they show. This is a small detail, but I really enjoyed the way that they didn't do that. It was
At
like
all. Yeah.
Bruce. It was all Bruce. It was all Bruce footage, photographs, pictures, and they didn't show the people who were talking until the credits at the end. I thought that was really creative, and I've never seen.
Yeah, I've never seen it done like that either.
Do that.
I literally took notes, bro. I have a whole page of notes about that. I'm not gonna read all of them, but I mean, because a lot of the stuff I already. I mean, and I'm gonna talk about the biggest piece. Like, there was one overwhelming thing that I took away from this. I've always known this about Bruce Lee, but this documentary really drove it home. And I'm gonna bring that up later. But one of the things that I really, really appreciated that you asked the question, what's something that you wish you had gone into more? Or maybe you didn't ask that yet. I think we said we were going to ask that.
Yeah, we were going to.
You want to come back to it later, or you want to just hit it right now?
We're going to do it right now. So
okay.
What's you know, obviously we know everything about Bruce, but in the documentary was amazing. But what is something that you know, you kind of wanted them to touch on more, or something that you were wanting them to go into that they really didn't too much?
So it's the question. I'm going to answer this question. So the answer for that question, and also the question of what's the thing that they went into that you really appreciated that they went into, is both. They're both the same though. They're both the same thing, and that his relationship with Black America. And so here's what I mean by that. It was very clear. I mean, this movie this documentary. I keep calling it a movie. This documentary did a fantastic job of highlighting the fact that Bruce Lee was a multi. He was inviting and was a part of a multicultural like group of friends, and he appreciated his Black friends. His first student was a Black guy, and like it was clear that he learned how to maneuver that was obvious in his whole swag that he learned how to maneuver from Black folks, no doubt. Yes. And also the fact that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar mentioned that he was aware of the Black liberation movement and how that kind of played a role that was sort of pivotal in some of the stuff that he was doing in the activism with his acting and the stands that he was taking in Hollywood for sort of a Asian American liberation movement. So I thought that was a dope parallel. And they did so that's the one thing. The thing that I wish they had gone into a little bit more detail about, but they did it real subtly, man. They did it through the images, but they didn't outright say it. But his reverie of Muhammad Ali, he flat out.
Yes, I love that how they did, and you know, they did it really well. I do wish they would have shown the shuffle from Enter the Dragon.
Look, man,
I think it's a little more. I love the because Way of the Dragon is the first time you saw it, but Enter the Dragon was when it was like
so
perfect.
Look,
you know what I mean?
So there's more behind that, right? So they mentioned that he studied boxers, and he studied where their power came from and what would work for him, their footwork, what style of footwork, what style of like power gathering would work for his body type. And they didn't explicitly say it, but they showed like flashback images of his fights, and then they would flash to a Muhammad Ali fight and show the same speed, the same flashiness, and literally identical footwork. So it's not just like he like, all right, that looks cool, I'm gonna do that. He used to get tapes, because he was one of the two of them. I think Bruce Lee was left-handed, and Muhammad Ali was right-handed, one or the other. They were opposite-handed of one another. He would get tapes of Muhammad Ali's fights and play them in reverse or play them like flipped so he could literally mimic his footwork. That classic Bruce Lee, shuffle. You see it in Tekken with martial law. You see it with Fei Long on Street Fighter. That classic Bruce Lee shuffle is 100% based on Muhammad Ali's footwork, flat out, period. And that to me, like that bridging the connection between two of my idols was just like, that just made my day when I learned that.
Yeah, bro.
And so one more piece to that, the legend, the rumor is from one of his friends, I think Dan Intasato said this, that he was planning on challenging Muhammad Ali. And one more thing, I know this is about Bruce Lee, but just to big up Muhammad Ali, not only was he looking to challenge him, the reason why he was taking that so seriously and like studying him so hard is because he was he was the only person who he had legitimate like nervousness about fighting was Muhammad Ali, because of the fact that he was just as fast as him, but like literally twice as big. So but Bruce Lee was like, hey, wait a minute now. Let me you ain't supposed to be this big, this motherfucking big and also as quick as I am.
And also this fast.
Right. So yeah, that's what I wish they had gone into more.
That's dope, man. Yeah, bro. I love that scene where they did the like splice of the Muhammad Ali footage and the Bruce versus Chuck Norris from Way of the Dragon. That was really dope. One thing that I've always kind of been, I know some of the story, but one thing I wish they would have gone into just a little more. I've always kind of wondered why, Bruce didn't do any of the Shaw Brothers movies, right? They were kind of blowing up around the same time, like the Shaolin 36 Chambers and 5 Deadly Venoms and all those movies, like the classic like 70s kung fu movies, man, Master Killer, all those. And I do know that the guy that Bruce ended up working with was from, I think,
Raymond Chow.
Yeah, I think Raymond Chow was from Shaw Brothers, and I think he left and went over to where was it Warner? I want to say Warner Brothers, maybe.
I don't know. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
But Raymond Chow, I think, was with him. So I think they had offered him a deal, and Bruce just didn't want to take it. And then when Raymond Chow left and went somewhere else, then he snagged Bruce up for the numbers that he was looking for. So they kind of alluded to it a little bit in a documentary, but I would have liked to know a little more, because those were huge movies as far as the kung fu stuff goes at the time. So I'm very surprised he never wound up doing any of those movies.
If I had to make a educated guess as to why he was not interested in that, based on the picture that the documentary drew of Bruce Lee, I would say it's probably because he wanted to make his own stories. He didn't want it to be the same stereotypical Shaolin monks doing the same shit, fighting the same battles y'all been fighting for 20 years. He wanted to be the hero. He wanted to be an American action hero, and wanted to do because after Big Boss, you had never that was a different type of kung fu movie. You had never seen anything like that before.
Yeah, it was
an action movie. You know what I'm saying?
An action movie. It was fighting against some oppressors. You know what I mean? They had them working, and I think one of the workers gets killed. I've seen it a million times. I haven't seen it in a long time.
That movie was violent, low-key, like
super violent,
random as fuck.
The ketchup-y blood.
Right.
Yeah, bro. So that movie is super, super violent, and I mean that's what happens with Enter the Dragon, right? That's the reason it's so special, because it is a different movie, bro. It's a blockbuster. It's a blockbuster kung fu film, the first of its kind.
That would have been the equivalent of like fucking like Captain America or like fucking Infinity War. If
100%.
You know what I'm
100%.
saying?
And it did, and that's why it blew up, man, because it was so different, and Bruce got to do what he wanted to do. He fought for himself to be able to inject himself more into the movie, and he was able to do that, man. So I think that was really dope. And and one thing I really liked about I kind of answered the part about what I would have wanted them to get into more, but one thing that I really loved about it, man, is like you said, bro, I really love how they really painted him as somebody who was just really fighting for his people, bro. Like he was really trying to get these American people to respect his people, man. And another thing I really liked how they kind of told it how he was kind of like, I'm not winning here in America, man. Let me go back to Hong Kong.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And then he kind of went back to Hong Kong, and he got that W, man. And he just wasn't here to see it, man. I hate that so much.
Yeah, that's tragic.
I got a little choked up at the end.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'm already in sort of a sensitive emotional state, and seeing that was kind of like, man, that's tough, bro. One thing that I like kind of object to though about the way that the way that they hype this up, like if you listen to like the commercials, people would give quotes about it and say like, oh, this is like a true American story. Like white folks always want to attach that shit to like these Asian American icons or these African American icons. Like, sure, Bruce Lee was an American citizen. His American citizenship meant a lot to him. But this movie
casted a white guy to look. So first of all, whitewashing is an ancient technique of you know what I'm saying? They casted a white man in the lead role of the Kung Fu show. And now, and that is a role that Bruce wanted.
And not only did he want it, he wrote it. That was he wrote that shit.
And they wouldn't give it to him because they were worried about his accent.
So, the way that they were describing this movie to be like this tale of a immigrant achieving the American dream, like, maybe, but get the fuck out of here. That motherfucker tried his best in America, and y'all racist his ass out of there.
And y'all literally ran him out because of racism.
Right.
White supremacy.
Right. This movie was about him being a Chinese icon, an Asian American icon who harnessed and highlighted and had pride in his Asian heritage, his Chinese heritage, and used that to win.
Right.
In spite of America, which I think is a much more accurate description of what we saw.
Yeah, they always a true American tale.
Fuck out of here.
Bruce Lee. Shut up, man.
Not gonna be able to do it.
Not gonna be able to die. So yeah, man, the documentary was really dope. What is your favorite Bruce Lee movie? Now, before we get into this, I do want to say I have no doubts. I do think that if Bruce would have been alive, and this is, I do think we need to clarify this because I always am. I get somebody that wants to talk to me about Bruce, and they're like, "Oh yeah, man, Game of Death is the best kung fu movie ever. I love Game of Death. It's crazy." I'm like, okay, let's. Do you do know that Bruce did not finish making the movie, right? He only did the fight scenes. Now the fight scenes and the concept of those fight scenes are amazing, but the movie as a whole is terrible. Because
it's not really a movie. It's just like a concept.
It is, bro. It's a concept. They have a fill-in actor for him that I'm not making this up. I swear there's a part in that movie where they literally use like a cardboard cutout of his face.
I know exactly to see. It's like a dummy.
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about. I remember that part.
It's horrible. But so yeah, man, just explaining that. What's your favorite Bruce Lee movie, man?
So my favorite Bruce Lee movie is, and I've talked about this before, is Enter the Dragon for 1,000 different reasons. I mean, it's the biggest and baddest, larger than life depiction of Bruce Lee. It was a legitimate blockbuster film with legitimate star power, and he was the leading man in a way that we had never seen before. But I've talked about that one enough, so I'm going to actually focus on my second favorite, which I didn't realize how much I liked it until recently, and that's going to be Fist of Fury.
Yeah. Come on, man. Go ahead.
Fist of Fury is incredible for a lot of different reasons. One, because the historical context of it, it is a straight up like revolutionary movie where he's straight up like, yo, the Japanese in the case of Fist of Fury, and in the case of the time frame that they're referring to, the Japanese were oppressing Chinese folks, right? And that's basically what that movie was about. It was very similar to what Ip Man was based on. I mean, not based on. I mean, that's the time frame that it was taking place in. And so to see him just be like a cultural icon and a like cultural revolutionary to stand up and big up Chinese people in the face of oppression was dope. And also some of the fight scenes in that movie were so like poetic almost. Like I think one of my favorite scenes is where he fights all the black belts in the dojo, and there's like that circular dance. It's almost like they do a dance where like they're all surrounding him, and then they all kind of rush in, and he checks them, and then they all like back up. That shit is like it's like a choreographed dance. This shit was so fucking dope. He also
weird.
Bro, this nigga fed a scroll.
He takes those two dudes and he just throws them.
And then this motherfucker fed a scroll to a motherfucker. Like, bitch, next time it'll be glass, hoe ass. And he did it while staring somebody else in the face, in the eyes, while he fed another nigga a paper scroll. The fuck?
Yo,
let's go.
That scene where the sword goes in the air and he just holds my man
right,
until it
bro.
comes down and goes in his bag. But also one thing that I love about that movie, bro, the fight against the Japanese karate students, right?
Oh yeah,
bro, that's where they got it from Ip Man, where Donnie Yen fights the 10 black belts, man. So that's a movie that just influenced like a ton of other things, man.
There's also a Jet Li remake that's actually my favorite Jet Li movie.
Yeah, that character, what is it, Shinsen or whatever?
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce it, but yeah.
That character that Bruce plays in that ended up becoming one of those like
folk heroes,
one of those folk heroes in Chinese cinema. So
there's another one
that was really dope.
There's another guy, man, fuck, I'm gonna be mad as hell if I can't remember it. But there's another like folk hero-y character that shows up in a bunch of wuxia films whose name I motherfucking Wong Kar. No, that's the director.
Wong Fei Hung.
Yeah, Wong Fei Hung. Yeah. Okay, so
yeah.
that character it's almost like this is a really bad example, but it's almost like what's the nigga from fucking that Harrison Ford played him a long time ago, and now there's like a new movie with Chris Pine plays him. He's like an American spy that was president, and there's a bunch of stories about him. I think Tom Clancy wrote him. The fuck is his name?
I don't know.
Shit is gonna drive me crazy. But anyways, he is a character that like reappears in in those types of wuxia films as like the hero, right? So anyways.
And that's what that character became from Bruce Lee. Donnie Yen actually, Legend of the Fist is a movie where Donnie Yen reprises that character too, and that movie is actually really, really good. So
Jack Ryan, that's the name I was thinking about.
Ryan, okay.
Jack Ryan, yeah. So he just is. That's white people's like super fucking guy. Super spy who just shows up and this nigga is he's like a CIA NSA agent. He becomes a fucking FBI head of the FBI. Right. Then that nigga becomes the president. Like this nigga is literally white people's Superman. This is white Jesus in fiction. Jack fucking Ryan.
Jack Ryan. Yeah, bro. So my favorite Bruce movie is Way of the Dragon, man. And that's obviously the one with the sweet Chuck Norris fight. But I love that movie as a whole because I do think that is Bruce's most complete role, right? He's the movie it's got the top-notch fights. He's hilarious, and he's hilarious in that movie, and it's funny, and it has a cool story, and it also just has the top-notch fights, man, and he's the hero, right? He's this guy who it's about he kind of is brought in from out of town to kind of protect help out a family friend who his restaurant is kind of being like messed up by these these little mobster guys, and he comes in and he just beats them up all the time, and they call it backup, which is Colt, which is Chuck Norris. You know what I'm saying? And that movie is just really dope. I think it takes place in like Rome too, so that
that's where they shot it.
Yeah, the setting is really dope, and also, man, there's that one scene, and it reminds me of Cell from Dragon Ball when he like gets his final form where Bruce is just in front of the mirror and he's just like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And he's like looking at himself in the
Right.
mirror, being super fast. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, so Way of the Dragon is my favorite Bruce Lee movie. And with that said, what is your favorite Bruce Lee fight scene, sir?
Man, there's only one answer for this, bro. It's got to be the fight against. I've said this before, bro. It's the fight against O'Hara and Enter the Dragon. To me, that's the quintessential Bruce Lee fight scene. I mean, that encapsulates everything about Bruce Lee. It's so dope. Fucking, I can do a whole podcast about that one scene. So it starts off with and you're a Chinese martial art expert. You couldn't hear me?
No, I couldn't. I can hear you now. I don't know.
Oh, okay. All right. So here, let's run it back. I said that the fight scene. I've said this before, but it's got the only real answer has got to be the fight scene between him and O'Hara and Enter the Dragon. And to me, that's the most quintessential Bruce Lee fight. And I also said I got really excited and said I could do a whole podcast just on that one fight scene.
Right.
And bro, you have more personal experience in Chinese martial arts than I do. What is the name of this stance when you fight with your opponent and you guys have the
kind of lock your
wrists
hands together?
Yeah.
So so in Wing Chun they call it like sticky hands or chi sao or dan chi sao. It's like because it's almost like a game, like how you always explain to me how capoeira
is a game.
Kind of a game. That's kind of the game aspect of like Wing Chun, right? So
it starts off like in that traditional style, and Bruce Lee is just obviously too fast, too quick. You know what I'm saying? Off top, bow, back fist, second back fist. Right. And then O'Hara gets wise and tries to and sees it coming, counter, a third back fist. And so now O'Hara is unraveling, right? Who is this little tiny guy out here who, has defied my big burly white man beard? And I'm upset, so I'm about to start being on some fuck shit. I am about to separate myself from the tradition. I'm leaving the style, I'm leaving the form. And guess what Bruce Lee did as a result, as a answer, as a response? He also left his style and became. That was not the first appearance, but the christening of the Jeet Kune Do hop, the bounce, where he let go of the tradition, he let go of the style, and became an efficient machine and just absolutely beat the dog shit out of O'Hara. There's all kind of trivia about that scene. I mean, that's where you get the flip kick that turns into martial law's signature from Tekken.
Yes.
You get there's a scene where towards the end, right before O'Hara gets the bottles to try to hit him with the broken bottles, where he gets a side kick, right? He gets a step through side kick that knocks O'Hara into the crowd. Yeah. So there is one of the extras in the background, he kicked this nigga O'Hara so hard that he knocked. Okay, let me run it back. He kicked O'Hara so hard that he broke the arm of somebody who tried to catch him in the background.
Oh my god.
So this motherfucker is a machine. And it's just an amazing scene. Like the way it's shot it reminds me. So like the Mortal Kombat movie with Liu Kang versus our boy Akeem the Machine was clearly inspired by that scene. I mean, that whole
totally.
that whole scene.
Well, Mortal Kombat was inspired by that whole scene.
In
general, Mortal Kombat is a whole entire thing.
I mean, the whole thing was inspired. I mean, like Han is very clearly Shang Tsung, right? Like that's clearly where they based this idea off of. And it's just a fucking iconic ass scene, bro. Iconic fight. And I'm here for it. Also, Liu Kang, also a dope Bruce Lee pastiche. We'll talk more about that later.
Yes, sir. So yeah, bro, my favorite Bruce fight scene is Way of the Dragon, man, Bruce versus Chuck Norris. The reason I love this fight so much is because, bro, this is so in his movies he is the hero and he is always
taking zero hits.
And he's always taking no damage, right? This was kind of a fight. This was like almost like a wrestling match, the way that it was hyped up, because in the film, and that didn't happen a lot. It was always more so him trying to get to this villain that you just want him to beat up, and then he gets there and he whoops him. This was a thing where the family had brought in Bruce to protect the restaurant. So now the bad guys had to go get their muscle, right? And now they got Colt, as Chuck is known in the film. Now he's coming in, and there's kind of this thing where now they got their guy, and we got our guy, and and then the showdown happens at the end. And they hype Chuck up too, man. They drop his credentials. They're like, we got Colt coming in, and he's this, he's this karate champion of the world, and he's gonna. So then he comes in, and it's just the whole they go fight in this big abandoned like Roman Coliseum. You know what I'm saying? It's really dope, and the way they build up to it. I talked about it before. That scene where the cat like arches its back and stretches its back.
So fucking dope, dog.
And then Bruce does the same thing, and then the fight, man, it's really dope because you can clearly see the difference, in their styles, because obviously Chuck is the real deal, right? And he's doing you can very clearly see the karate and what he's doing. And then even though Bruce is, super formless, you can still see the Wing Chun and what he's doing, and you can see, and you can see the Jeet Kune Do and the things that he's doing. And he's just so fast, bro. Like there's some things he does in that scene where he's just amazingly fast. So that's my favorite Bruce Lee fight scene. All right, man. The last little Bruce Lee thing here. There's so many of them. He's such an iconic character, right? This guy has not only influenced real life, but he has influenced countless numbers of fictional characters, bro, because people recognize him. They recognize the they recognize the hop, man. They recognize the Game of Death tracksuit. They recognize the pants with no shirts, right? They recognize
with the high waisted man.
Man, and the little, again, 3 scars. You know what I'm saying? And he's so just universally known and recognized. So out of all of the fictional Bruce Lee pastiches, who is your favorite one?
Man, that's so hard. I'm torn between martial law and Fei Long, but if I have to like really gun to my head pick one, I'm gonna go with Fei Long. Just because I just got more history with Fei Long. Right. Even though I'm better, like I love Fei Long the character, but I was never like excellent with him. I was pretty good with him, but I was never as good with Fei Long as I was like in terms of playing the game as I am with martial law. He's one of my best characters. But the Fei Long pastiche though is the most on the nose though, because that nigga flat out is Bruce Lee, a movie star, everything. Right. And is also I think Fei Long is also American too. Like follows the exact same, like born in America, raised in Hong Kong, type deal. He's got an amazing fight with Ryu. We talked about this the last episode, I think, where he fights against Ryu in the Street Fighter cartoon or the animated series.
Oh, yeah, man.
Right, let's go, dog. Set that nigga Gee on fire, dog. So yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Fei Long, but I'm gonna give some love to some of the lesser known, more immediate, some of the less obvious Bruce Lee's pastiches. But shout out to Maxie from Soul Calibur.
Yes.
And also here's another one that niggas don't be considering. Shout out to Kenshiro from Fist of the North Star, bro. One of the original
100%.
Bruce Lee pastiches.
100%.
Let me see. Oh, bro, you remember that game?
I feel like Kenshiro was like 6'8" though.
He didn't look like Bruce Lee, but his demeanor.
Absolutely.
You know. Do you remember that game? It was a Street Fighter competitor. It was called like World Warriors or something like that. It was like really like a knockoff Street Fighter, and it had this dude named Dragon on there. Do you remember that shit? I wish I could.
Super familiar.
It'll come back to me. Go ahead. What's yours though, and I'll think of it in the meantime.
So I got, man, like you said, there's a lot. Obviously, got to give a shout to
Liu Kang as well.
Martial Law, Fei Long, dog, even Rock Lee, right? From
Hell yeah,
clearly. Yeah. But my favorite, man, I'd probably have to say Shang-Chi, man, from like comics, right? Shang-Chi is another character who clearly based on Bruce Lee. If I'm not mistaken, I want to say there's even some old Deadly Hands of Kung Fu books where he's like teaming up with actual Bruce Lee in the comic book. But Shang-Chi, man, I love Shang-Chi. He's one of my favorite Marvel characters, and he's probably my favorite. And there's some times where he just looks just like Bruce.
Oh, 100%.
And so he's probably my favorite one.
World Heroes. That's
Heroes.
That's the game I'm talking about. Yeah, look it up. It's one of the most obvious
knockoffs,
Street Fighter knockoffs ever. And their Bruce Lee pastiche is a nigga just named Dragon. It's an SNK game. Okay.
World Heroes.
Bro, they got a dude on this game called Hattori Hanzo. Good lord.
That's like a 100. Why didn't they just name Dragon Bruce Lee?
Right. He might as well.
Miyamoto Musashi.
Right.
Why didn't y'all just do that? So yeah, bro. With that,
they got a nigga on this game named Muscle Power, dog.
He got to be an American. Is he American?
Of course. He's a wrestler, obviously.
Is his hair?
He looks like Hulk Hogan.
Is his hair blonde? It's blonde.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Of course.
I literally just guessed his whole life based off of his name.
Right, bro. Muscle Power.
That is hilarious. Muscle Power, brother. Oh my gosh, this game. I'm looking at it.
Bro, this nigga looks like this.
I 100% had this game. Yes, I remember.
Absolutely,
bro. Look at Police Chief Bison. What is his name? Bro, this dude, he looks like he's like Safe M. Bison. Oh my goodness. Yes, bro. I remember this game 100%. It's a SNK game, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yep. Bro, this is hilarious. I think the Bison guy is probably the worst one.
Yeah, shit looks pretty trash. They got Muscle Power looking like Hulk Hogan when he was in New Japan.
Muscle Power.
All right.
Muscle Power, dog. My man Dragon is Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
He's just Bruce Lee.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. Hanzo. They got a pirate. They got a Viking. They got a football. They just got a straight up football player.
They got a football nigga. They just be running niggas over.
they got a straight up football player on there. Oh my goodness, this is hilarious. Gotcha.
Like I flat out like want to play this game, kind of.
I do too. After looking at these characters, they literally have like a Nazi M. Bison. He looks like a member of Hydra.
Bro, this game is out. This game is out on Switch right now.
Might have to get it.
Right, dog. I might have to fuck with this shit.
I might have to check it out, bro. They literally have every kind of. Bro, they got a football player. They got a Viking. They got a Native American guy. They have a pirate. They have a M. Bison Hydra looking person. They have a person. They have like a Native American guy in a tiki mask. They have Bruce Lee. They have Hattori Hanzo. They have a Ryu knockoff who looks like a mixture of Ryu and somebody from Dragon Quest. Right. Yeah, man, I gotta check this out. All right, man, we got sidetracked there. World Heroes, man. Y'all need to probably check that game out if you want to see some
funny stuff.
Some very obvious ripoffs of already existing characters.
M. Bison and his little cousin Ronald Bison.
Ronald Wildebeest. Ron Wildebeest.
Right.
Hey man, it's time for our favorite part of the show. Top 5 of the day. Gonna keep it martial arts related. We did our top 5 favorite martial arts films once before, so we're gonna switch it up here. Who are your top 5 favorite martial arts actors?
All right.
Ever?
So just to set the proper expectations for our fans here, I guarantee that at least 3 of the 5 are going to be the same. Maybe as many as 5 out of 5 will be the same, but maybe in different orders.
Word.
So we'll see. We'll find out real quick though, because I think our top 3 are almost assuredly going to be the same. Maybe in a slightly different order, but they're going to be the same. 4, possibly 5. We'll see. So I'm going to start with number 5. We're just going to jump right into it. We're just going to rip the Band-Aid off. So my top 4, I'll talk a little bit of shit like I usually do.
Bro, before you get into this, I have Fist of Fury just playing silently, and Bruce is just beating the crap out of these.
Everybody.
Everybody.
Just everybody. Yeah, no, that's what he does. I haven't actually watched any Bruce Lee movies in a while. I'm gonna have to just binge them all. Recently.
You should, bro. I got years ago, a long time ago, my brother got me this thing and it had every Bruce Lee movie in it.
That's fire. I'm sure I have them somewhere at my mom's house, but I haven't actually. I just feel like I've seen those movies so many times. They're just like I just have them here.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I feel that way about the original Star Wars trilogy as well.
Same.
Okay, so my top 4 really stand out so far ahead of everybody else. So this was a pretty easy list to make, with the exception of number 5. But as I've done some research and I've done some comparing and some contrasting, I'm gonna throw a wild card in at number 5, which I think she deserves it. I'm gonna go with Michelle Yeoh. I told you. I told you, dog. It's Michelle Yeoh at number 5. Listen. I told you, but this is not going to be a very diverse list. I think it is possible that we will have 4 out of 5, maybe 5 out of 5 the same.
I love Michelle. Yeah, that's a great pick, man.
So Michelle Yeoh at number 5. She is, unlike everybody else on this list, not a trained martial artist initially. She was a dancer, much like Yang Zizi of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon fame. But she was just such a natural, a phrasing that I learned watching this documentary, a quote-unquote kinetic genius, which I thought was an excellent way to describe Bruce Lee.
I love that term.
Such a good way to describe it. Just being able to just understand movement and draw the connections between what she had learned as a dancer and fill in the blanks for martial arts, because much of Chinese martial arts is based. I should say that Chinese dance and Chinese martial arts are based on a lot of the same principles, and the movements are very, very similar. That's why it translates so well. But she's also been an action star for so long that by now she damn near is a master at multiple styles because of how long she's been doing it.
And also, bro, if y'all don't know, Michelle Yeoh does all her own stunts.
Yes.
So she has been through the ringer. She's gotten injured many times on
her and Jackie Chan. I think I read that her and Jackie Chan, when she first started doing her own stunts was in Super Cop with Jackie Chan.
Yep.
Which was like in 1993, so that was like 20 years ago. God damn it, damn near. So she is an OG, and she just got a super boost for me when she showed up as a main character in Star Wars or Star Trek Discovery, and she is phenomenal in that role, man. She is so dope. You get to see a different side of her because she plays like a villain kind of, and it's like she's fucking diabolical. I love it,
bro. And I just want to put this out there. She very much still has it. I watched. There's a Crouching Tiger. You know, everybody knows that Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon is my favorite movie ever. There's a sequel to Crouching Tiger on Netflix, and it's called Crouching Tiger, Sword of Destiny. Bro, it is fire. Got Donnie Yen in it. Donnie Yen actually plays the guy who Michelle Yeoh's character was in love with. And he had faked his death so her and Lee Mubai could be together, but he ended up, dying. But the movie's really dope. She's in that movie, and she definitely still has it. And it's not old. I think it only came out like a couple years ago.
Yeah, like 2015 or something like that. I remember. So yeah, that's my number 5. Number 4, and this is the linchpin right here, man. He has recently skyrocketed up my boards, my mock draft. God damn it, my power rankings. He's skyrocketed up these boards just because I just love his power. I love his agility. He has a unique style, and also he is the best, maybe even better than Jackie Chan at one of my favorite. And this is you could tell I'm a martial artist, because one of the things that like really excites me about fighting and about like seeing action movies is the reset. Like after you do your technique and then the reset afterwards. I absolutely love that. Jackie Chan is phenomenal at it, but I think the guy who might be a little bit better is Tony Jaa. I love Tony Jaa.
I love the Muay Thai reset.
Yes, yes, bro. That shit is so fun because it's so strong,
powerful,
dog.
It's powerful,
like fucking. It reminds me
powerful.
Of to some extent. I mean, there's a lot of the Avatar bending is based on Tai Chi, but there are some movements in
earth bending.
There's some movements in earth bending that remind you of of Muay Thai a little bit. I would say that like water bending and air bending are very Tai Chi-ish. I would say that fire bending is maybe got some Jeet Kune Do or some Taekwondo in it, and I would say that earth bending is much more grounded on some like Muay Thai type shit. So
fire bending is definitely just Shaolin. They be doing some crazy.
Yeah, actually, Shaolin, because of that, like that close hand, that straight punch that they do is very much Shaolin.
Yeah, it's super. I love fire bending, man. It looks really dope.
It does look sweet. To me, I think we'll talk about this more later, but I think the one that looks the dopest to me, it's a tie between. So the movements in firebending look the best, but I think like the martial arts of earthbending. For me, it's earthbending. It looks sweet as fuck.
My favorite is waterbending, but I do think that earthbending looks the best, bro.
That should be looking sweet as fuck, dog. I love how she gets grounded.
One super, and I know we're getting off track here, but like one really very low key moment that I love is when they're trying to get to Ozai and she has to break that metal door and she just
Bro, she turns into the fucking Iron Man, dog.
Bro, come on.
That shit was incredible.
This she
yeah, she's dope. Fuck with Toph. She's one of my favorite kids.
Is awesome.
So yeah, Tony Jaa, man. Tony Jaa, the master of the Muay Thai reset. Love that shit. At number 4. And then the top 3, and no surprises here, Donnie Yen at number 3. Just in my opinion, probably the closest thing to Bruce Lee in terms of like international, like general appeal. Jackie Chan, you can obviously make the argument there, but he is a lot more specifically like, well, I'll talk about him in a second. But in terms of his martial arts ability, you know, he's got the traditional training. He's also got a lot of training in like modern styles of fighting, the MMA stuff, the groundwork, the grappling. He's just an incredible martial artist and also an excellent actor as well. And I just love his intensity on film. And I just want to see more of him, bro. I just want to see him. I know he's like Tom Cruise in China. He can do whatever he wants, but I just want to see more of him in America. I think that we would really I think he would really become what we all wanted Jet Li to be.
Absolutely, man. Donnie, there has to be, and obviously, I mean, he's in phenomenal shape. His age doesn't really matter. But just speaking strictly in terms of, you know, like leading characters for these big Marvel movies and stuff, he's probably a little too old. But there has to be a way. He has to be in a big movie. Like he has to be, man. He's in Mulan. Obviously, the COVID kind of ruined the release of Mulan. So it is dope to see him in that. But there's got to be a way to get him in, you know, to play a prominent role in a big time like MCU movie, man. Like I personally. And I said this before the movie came out, man. I thought Donnie Yen should have been the Ancient One in Doctor Strange. I thought that would have been perfect.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think he's got as much martial arts as Jet Li. In my opinion, much more in my opinion. But I know a lot of people love Jet Li, whatever. But the key difference is he's got the acting chops that Jet Li just doesn't have.
Yeah. He's a like you say all the time. He speaks better English than
me. I'm from America. So, anyways, number 2, we're gonna go with Jackie Chan, bro. Jackie Chan. A lot of people love to throw Jet Li in here. You know, and no, this is not Jet Li shade. This is not Jet Li shade. He doesn't belong in the SwordCast Hall of Shame. I don't think because it's not hate. It's just that. There are people out there that are better. Jet Li's martial arts are awesome. He is a Olympian or something like a world champion. Legit martial arts. Technician.
I actually think Donnie Yen is too, though. I think he might be wushu, also Olympic level wushu competitor.
Right. I mean, there's no question that he's at least on Jet Li's level. In my opinion, I think he's more well-rounded. But the difference, though, is that Jet Li is a wooden Indian chief when it comes to acting. And as we'll get into in a second, and this is what I really wanted to talk about with my number 1, which is there's no surprise who that's going to be. But Jackie Chan, right. Hey, Wesley Snipes, like this nigga was mad at me on Facebook because I didn't have.
Remember that.
All right, come on, bro.
I love Wesley, but
come on,
why you gotta impose your you know what I'm saying? Why you gotta impose your thoughts?
Yeah, man. So Jet, in terms of like the total package of like having the most martial of all of the arts,
right.
I would even say, and this is no shade, obviously, to Bruce Lee. I would say in terms of like knowledge of traditional martial arts, I think Jackie Chan even eclipses Bruce Lee, maybe even by a long shot, because Bruce Lee's formal training was not all that extensive. Like he trained with Ip Man for a while, but a lot of the shit that he did was self-taught, which is why
And
he
reading
was so
too.
incredible.
He
Reading,
read a lot.
right.
That's all
And when he was reading, though, he wasn't necessarily reading to learn to like become a master of the tradition. He was reading to create his own style, which is what he did. When it comes to just like a well-rounded mastery of like traditional Chinese martial arts, I don't think anybody's got more knowledge than Jackie Chan. He is an absolute legend. He is the real deal. He went out of his way in the wake of Bruce Lee. I mean, he worked on Bruce Lee's stunt team, had a good, I mean, let's not pretend like they were best friends. He respected him. He knew who he was. He, I was a little disappointed they didn't talk about the Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee connection. But that wasn't really the point. And again, it wasn't really, they weren't like super duper close, but they did work with one another. But in the wake of the Bruce Lee exploitation era, right after he died, they were trying to find the next guy. And everybody was trying to get Jackie Chan to be that next guy because he was up next. He was on deck. He was the young cat, who had the skills. He definitely had the skills to be on par, to be on that level. But his respect for Bruce Lee was so high that he went out of his way to not be the super powered, super serious Bruce Lee superhero figure. That Jackie Chan comedy style was created as a way to differentiate himself from Bruce Lee. And I think a lot of people take that for granted and say, oh, he's just the funny guy who does tricks with his ladder and his chair. Like, nah.
Nah, bro. Y'all got to go ahead and do your homework, man. Jackie is amazing.
Jackie Chan is a technician, bro. He is
honestly
stunningly accomplished.
I'll say because he on, spoiler.
Right. So, I mean, Jackie Chan is just, in terms of like martial arts ability, the only person on this list that whose martial arts knowledge, maybe, I'm not gonna say knowledge because Bruce Lee was a fucking scientist. Goddamn, he was a fucking physician out here.
Yeah, bro.
But in terms of his like well-roundedness and just knowledge, just general knowledge of Chinese martial arts, I mean, he has no peer. He is absolutely in a league of his own. And he's the guy who's had probably the next most success behind Bruce Lee as well. And I think he deserves it 100%. And then, so lastly, of course, number one, Bruce Lee. But the thing I want to talk about with Bruce, I mean, we spent the whole podcast talking about him, but the thing that I've known about him that I'm really, really glad this documentary did a great job of really, really, really underscoring is that Bruce Lee was a phenomenal actor, dog.
He was,
like,
bro.
Just not even on some martial arts shit, just a straight up dramatic actor. He was fantastic. So much so that I think, and this is really a shame, I think that if he was still alive, like in his twilight years, when he maybe wasn't able to do as much action stuff anymore, in his 60s, 70s, I could see him being like a Robert De Niro level, like serious actor on some Oscar type shit, right? I could absolutely see him on some like Denzel Washington level of leading actor, no doubt.
He had been doing it his whole life.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? He was doing it forever since the time he's a child.
And so he was able to not only be a good dramatic actor, but he was able to translate that into his movements in a way that was unlike anything we'd ever seen. And I think that's another thing that made him stand out from like the Shaolin 36 chamber style of Shaw Brother martial arts film, is that part of the charm of those movies is that they were kind of corny and kind of campy, right? Everybody liked that about them.
And they were supposed to be like fun,
right?
You know what I mean?
But Bruce Lee brought a seriousness and a drama to it that we had never seen before. Like, holy shit, that motherfucker like meant that shit. Like, he's not out here goofing around. Like, this motherfucker is serious, right? Intense AF, right? The facial expressions, the acting through his body and through his movements. I mean, we've still never seen anything like that before, and I don't think we ever will. And so, that, in addition to him being just an absolute physical specimen, a kinetic genius, a martial arts savant. Again, man, keeping in mind, bro, Bruce Lee did not have that much formal training, dog, and that is not a slight to him. That is, he achieved everything that he did in spite of not having a ton of. I mean, I think he maybe trained within the Ip Man school for like maybe 6 years or maybe less than that. but was such a savant that he took that and created an entire legacy and an entire art form and a thirst and a like dismantling of what it meant to be a martial artist and recreated it in his own image. And we'll never see anything like that again. Bruce Lee, number 1.
Let's go. And I like that. I got another question, but I ask it after I do mine. Mm-hmm. So yeah, man, that's dope. Very good. Obviously, we have a lot in common. So yeah, man. Starting off my number at number 5 for me, very similar to yours. I thought we were gonna have the same one. I got a little scared there because we would have had all 5 people. But my number 5, I'm going with Yang Ji from you know, similar to Michelle. Obviously Michelle has been in the game a lot longer. But just, you know, as far as a person who really, really kind of created is responsible for my interest in like Chinese swordsmanship over Japanese swordsmanship, it's definitely her, man. Her roles in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and Hero, and House of Flying Daggers. She's very similar to Michelle, bro. Very shockingly, no like formal training before film. She was a dancer as well, you know, and applying those movements that kind of they go into that wushu type of movement and style, and like you said, bro, just a kinetic genius, able to take those movements from dancing and apply them to martial arts, man. And she's amazing in her movies, man. So definitely one of my biggest influences and one of my all-time favorites. She's in some of my favorite movies ever. So Yang Ji, number 5. My number 4, man, just like you, Tony Jaa. Same thing you said, man. Just hard, just very hard hitting. And yo, man, everybody talks about Ong Bak. I always tell people, you have to watch Ong Bak 2. Some of the just best, hardest hitting, grittiest fighting styles you will ever see. And
that's one of the best fight scenes ever on Ong Bak 2.
And he is so amazing in that movie. Yeah, that fight at the end of Ong Bak 2 is one of the greatest, like, one versus multiple opponents that I've ever seen in my life.
Hell yeah.
It's just amazing. And Tony Jaa, man, he's a good actor too. And I love his movies. I love his style. He's one of my all-time favorites as well. So Tony Jaa, number 4. Coming in at number 3 for me, I'm going with Jackie Chan, man. Just amazing. Like you said, possibly the most knowledgeable and experienced like Chinese martial artist that is in film ever. I don't think anybody knows more styles than him. I don't think anybody, and just his, man, he's another guy like Jackie had. Bruce had that power speed, but Jackie he was so fast too, but he had more so that like finesse speed. You know what I mean?
And he flowed. He had a rhythm to all of his fight scenes.
He had such a rhythm, and probably, just in my opinion, I think Jackie is the greatest one on multiple opponents, like martial arts actor ever. I think his scenes against and there's some amazing scenes out there. The Bruce versus the karate students and Fist of Fury, Donnie Yen versus the 10 black belts in mine. There are some very good ones, but I just like, man, Jackie's got so many scenes where he's fighting multiple people. And my favorite is the way he's fighting the Axe Gang and Legend of the Drunken Master.
Yes, sir.
And he's just amazing, bro, in that fight. So shout out to Jackie, man. And number 2 for me is Donnie, man. I'm a huge Donnie Yen fan. The Yip Man movies really influenced me a lot as far as Wing Chun goes. And he's so well rounded, man. Like he can do it all. He's and if you go back to some of his older movies, I love him in Iron Monkey. I think he's amazing in Iron Monkey. And he's been doing it for a while, and he is amazing, bro. He literally can do everything. Flashpoint, I think, is a really good example of him just
Bruh.
dog. That fight at the end of Flashpoint.
Shit was like 15 minutes long.
Bro, it was probably longer. It was like just a 20-minute one-on-one.
Right. It was like the whole movie, the whole final act of the movie.
It's just a scrap. Amazing Yip Man movies, amazing. His role in Iron Monkey is one of my favorites. Even his recent stuff is really good. He's just and like you said before, Donnie Yen is a fantastic actor too, and that just adds to everything that he does. He is just, like you said, man. We gotta get him in a he has to be in a huge like blockbuster film role, man. But yeah, I love Donnie Yen, bro. Definitely. Number 2 only to my number 1, which is obviously Bruce, man. I mean, we've been talking about Bruce all episode. Just amazing. The great actor, total package. He's hilarious, and bro, just the speed and the style, man. Just he was just one of a kind, bro. There will never be another one like him, and I think that I think it's dope that he was such a special, one of a kind person that people are knowledgeable of that, and nobody will ever try to be like him. You know what I mean? Like there's always legends that people try to be like all the time in anything, music, sports. But I think Bruce is so respected that nobody will ever try because they just know, you know what I mean, and they respect him too much. So
I think Donnie Yen is probably not trying to be like him, but probably the closest to him in terms of like presence on stage, on film. I think, you know who did try to be like him though a little bit, and maybe this is where I do hate a little bit, is I think Jet Li. When they first tried to push Jet Li out, I think he was trying to really like be on some Bruce Lee shit a little bit too much, and I was like, you know what? No. You know what I'm saying?
No, I
don't think so.
Hey man, okay, so that's my top 5, man. Real quick before we get out of here, bro, give me another martial artist that's kind of more like younger, newer to the scene, that's not like a legend like these ones are, that you really like.
So there's a bunch. I mean, Iko Uwais is on that list. He almost made my top 5, honestly. I gotta give some love to, even though he's not I think you actually put me on him. I don't know if he's been in a lot of movies as a lead actor, but I know he's a stunt person. Is Maurice Crump. The black dude.
Black guy, yeah.
He is fantastic.
Maurice Crump is in The Protector, I think, the one of Tony Jaa.
Yes, he is. He is.
Maurice Crump is amazing, bro. Super, super, super good. That's a good pick, man. I'm gonna go with Louis Tan, bro. I am a big fan. Iko Uwais is amazing as well, but I am a big fan of Louis Tan. I think he's really, really amazing. He's a good actor too, man. He's I think in a few years he's gonna kind of be that like really, really well known Asian presence on.
I think so. I think he's got a shot.
Yeah, he's an amazing martial artist, really good actor as well, man. So yeah, bro. Episode 40 in the books. Shout out to Bruce Lee, man. Shout out to our martial arts fans out there, man. Make sure you guys follow us on Instagram at the SwordCast Pod. Hey, man, thank y'all for listening. Next week, I'm super excited. I hope all my Avatar Airbender fans tune in, because we finally about to talk about my favorite show ever, Avatar: The Last Airbender, next week.
Sir.
So, yeah, man, if you guys didn't catch the Bruce Lee 30 for 30, I hope you guys check it out. It was amazing. I enjoyed it. I'm probably going to watch it again. And thank y'all for listening, man. Love y'all.
Check it.
Welcome back, hero.
All right, it recorded.
My word is my sword, Hokage and Batosai, pulling the blades out of the forge, yo. Prior to my knowledge of the Force, was thinking Jedi, but through obtaining holocrons from both sides, I'm under gray skies. Everything that glitter ain't kyber crystal, my mind will lift you. In this time we shine together, disarm your pistol, yo. Welcome to the SwordCast, SwordCast. My wordplay, my swordplay when blades clash. Welcome to the SwordCast, SwordCast. My wordplay, my swordplay when blades clash. Welcome to the SwordCast, SwordCast.